Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimish Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel really blessed with this podcast, the impact it's having. When I started the podcast, my intention was really to simplify spirituality and guide people on their journey. And the messages I receive every week, people find this podcast when they need it most. The impact it's having, I feel so blessed. So if you're a regular listener, thank you. Welcome back. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. Let us know if you have any feedback. I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And what I get to do is I get to hold people's space while they're going through a shift, maybe going through an upgrade, maybe an awakening, a rebirth, whatever label you want to give it. But my role is really to hold people's space and energies while they go through the shift, guiding them to be themselves. I love what I get to do. After spending many years in the corporate world, I get to do what I love. Also, as part of this podcast, I get to interview some amazing people. And I'm excited to have Susan on the podcast today. Interestingly enough, Susan was scheduled to be on the podcast in February, but for many reasons, we had to reschedule, and divine timing, she's here with us today. So, Susan, I'd love for you to introduce yourself in whatever words fill your heart. Sure.
It was just amazing to me because I think I got in well before people knew what a leadership coach was and doing that work. And I've seen the industry transform quite a bit, but I have a pretty eclectic background, corporate world, similar to you, went to Harvard Law School, went on to Boston Consulting Group doing management consulting, worked for NBC television in marketing and business development. And then there was a moment that my career took a shift, which I could not feel any sort of deep motivation for anything I was doing. And obviously I had quite the educational background, and yet I didn't enjoy my work, and I found it very difficult to get up and get motivated to do anything. And it's sort of like I would just pray for vacation and planning vacation, and that's what would light me up. And so I felt quite lost, and I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to take a little bit of a break. Had moved over to London and decided to just pursue something that I was passionate about, because I was, 5 years out of law school, burnt out already. Like, what?
Wow.
And so I went and got a master's in acting from the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. And little did I know how much that was going to feed into all the work that I do today, because as an actor, you learn so much about
That's true.
that inner voice, that inner critic, it could be, right? And just developing deep empathy to be able to play the parts that you need in the roles that you need to play. And I kept thinking there's got to be some way I could bring this back to business, because I felt a lot of soulless energy there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I found a way to bring that all together in leadership development. And I would say I've had the privilege of working for some of the most incredible leaders. I mean, billionaires, right? And incredible CEOs that have disrupted their industries and created something new, and working with executive teams, Fortune 100. I mean, it's been an incredible career. But, behind the scenes, I think what I'm really trying to do is bridge the world between spirituality and the corporate side, and infusing it under cover of night in a way.
Love it. I love
At
it.
times. Sometimes not so covert, but sometimes covert, right?
Yeah.
In a way. But whatever it takes to get there, to build that empathy, to build that connection to ourselves, and really learn to love ourselves as leaders. Because if you can truly love yourself as a leader, you're going to love your people. And so that's, I don't know, probably longer than you were looking
No,
for,
it's beautiful. That's so
but some
beautiful.
of the pieces around the career. Yeah.
I love the journey. I love how our journey is not linear. It's kind of like we take into so many places, and it's like I feel like now the veil is getting thinner, and more is kind of being revealed as to why we took that journey. It's like you going into acting, and kind of being able to use those skills and combine it in a corporate space is beautiful. I love it. It's so beautiful. Corporate's interesting for me. I spent many years in that space, and I've almost I know I'm never going to take a corporate role again, but I've always kind of been resistant to spend a lot of time within corporate, kind of healing the corporate from within. But I know I've got to do that, and at some point, a lot of my clients come from corporate, but it's just such an interesting energy right now. I feel like a lot of the individuals within corporate are starting to ask a different set of questions, and the word spiritual within the corporate space is kind of sometimes taken as woo woo, kind of like
Yeah.
weird sort of, but I guess I use it in corporate. I call it more becoming conscious. I guess it's just a different way of saying the same thing. But I'm curious, what are you feeling energetically within the corporate space? Are you feeling a shift? Are you feeling more of an opening? Energetically, what are you feeling that's happening in that space right now?
I feel that I'm working to create as much opening as there is. Um, and I don't know on the whole, but I tend to look at where there's opportunity and where I do see shifts, and I choose to put my attention on there. I also notice a lot of polarity, right? It seems
Mm,
like the more on one side infusing a lot of light, and yet we see a lot of darkness at the same time. And so I'm present to that polarity. Um, I do feel there seems to be this sense of, and I'm grappling with this myself, of people not feeling heard.
yeah,
And I've been looking at myself where I've had this pattern of not feeling heard. And I'm exploring deeper what that's about. Right? What is it? What is it? And we're just in some cases shouting at each other louder, like
yeah,
hear me, right?
yeah,
But I often think we're looking for the external world, right, to give us something that we haven't given ourselves. So it's caused me to start to look at where in myself and where in the leaders that I've coached have they not been hearing themselves, not been present to the aspects of themselves that they've shut down, the parts that they want to isolate or exile. And I truly believe if we're going to make some healing on the outside, there's just still so much work to be done on the inside with these pieces.
yeah. I mean, it's really insightful everything you just said about finding our voice from the inside. It's just and we were talking before we started recording about the energy right now and our cycles and how are we closing so many cycles so quickly. And I feel like we've been asked to deal with a lot right now. We've been anything that we've hidden from ourselves, anything that we've kept hidden in a deep dark corner of our soul, light's being shine on. And speaking our truth and speaking our truth to ourselves is alien to so many people, especially in the leadership, right? You get used to
Yeah.
speaking and having a voice, but speaking and having a voice and being heard is two totally different things. And it's really, really interesting. It's just the dynamic of, even when we talked about using the word spiritual, it's that merging worlds. It's like being an actor. If you're being an avatar right now, as in you're not being authentic, you're using a different I feel like more and more people are getting found out. When as I talk a lot about shifting from divine masculine to divine feminine, and for me, masculine is all about the mask, the ego, speaking loud just to be heard for the sake of it, whereas the feminine is all about heart driven, feeling rather than thinking. And I do feel like a lot more souls are working to speak their truth, but not really knowing how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, how do you? What would your advice be for somebody who's trying to speak their truth, knows that, and it's like speaking your truth is really interesting. When I say that, actually, I don't mean speaking louder. As you said, it's like
Yeah.
it's speaking from the heart, and it's your intention. Well, what's your intention when you speak?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm curious, what would your advice be to anyone that's listening? That's like, I'm really trying to speak my truth. I'm really trying to find my voice, but I'm struggling with it. What would you advise them?
Part of it is like, again, your dialoguing with yourself, because if you feel very strong and resonant in yourself, you can't help but be a powerful communicator. And so all of the work, I would say, is let's start dialoguing with the parts of you that want to be heard, and what do they want to say? And if they could say anything, what would they say? Right? And just give them a chance to let it out without filtering, for yourself first. Sort of like, what's the core message here? But as you pointed out, what's the core feeling?
Yeah.
So often we talk about what we think, but how often do we lead with what we feel? I know for myself, sometimes it's a real challenge. I tend to be a head person, right? And I live in that corporate head space world. And so I get trained and patterned into that way of speaking, but I don't often lead with how I'm truly feeling. I mean, think about it when people ask you, like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And you asked me that question, well, before we started recording, and I had to actually take a beat so that I could be authentic and respond to you, not just,
Yeah.
oh, good, good,
Yeah.
or the one, busy, so busy. Right?
Yeah, it's the kind of standard, right?
So busy, right?
And it's
How?
not like we're not being authentic.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just autopilot, right?
yes, yes. It's autopilot, and it's, do we really want to get into how I'm really feeling right now? You know what I mean? Like when we're
Hey, look, when you're
engaging.
talking to me, then yeah, probably that's where I like to take
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But
So,
I'm saying in everyday conversation. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
it's I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it's like I always recommend mirror work, and you know, having a conversation with yourself in the mirror sometimes is really interesting because I always tell people, your eyes are windows to the soul. When you look in the mirror, connect with your eyes and look, because it's like when you do that, you're connecting to your soul, you're connecting to your heart, and sometimes it makes you feel uncomfortable. But it's like I just recommend just starting with I appreciate you, I thank you, and I love you, and it's just, and then just go from there. It's like you get to see a different side of you, and it's really interesting. And the other thing I advise to people is listen more than you speak, because I feel like you get so many more clues when you truly listen to what's happening in the world, and it's just when you're talking to somebody and you're actively listening to them and being open to what they're saying rather than thinking about how you're going to respond, or sometimes thinking about what you're going to have for dinner or whatever, right? It's just, there's so much power in that. And actually, when you do that, the other soul recognizes it. And when you speak, they hear you more.
Mhm.
And it just, I mean, I like that, I like the saying, you got two ears and one mouth, use them in that proportion, right? I mean, there must be
Yeah.
a reason that we were
Yeah.
built this way, right? So, but how, so your journey is interesting. And, we're having this conversation. You clearly had a spiritual journey. So how do you, in being in a corporate space, and I know I struggled with it at the time, being connected to whatever's happening to you spiritually, to your guides and the energy and the vibration out there, and being in a space that It's a very masculine energy. I'm not saying male, female. I'm saying masculine.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you find balance in that? How do you make sure that you stay connected and don't get lost in that masculine
Yeah.
energy?
Well, I'm definitely not perfect at
Sure.
it.
None of us are. None of us are.
And there are surely times where it is, I have to almost disconnect and reset. But the disconnecting and resetting, I think, does happen on a daily basis. I do meditate every morning. Interestingly, I've been so busy and had so much travel recently that my meditations are getting shortened and cut out, and I've noticed the impact. It absolutely is critical for me to do what I need to do because, again, that's the time where I'm getting quiet with myself and listening for guidance. Um, I also think, one of the reasons I love coaching, and obviously there were a lot of different careers that I could have taken.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes I feel like there are easier careers I could have done. But um, there's this incredible feeling when I'm coaching, particularly one on one, where I feel like I'm just a channel and information is flowing through me. And I'm not even sure what I'm saying in a way because it's so not filtered. And that's some of the most powerful moments. And it just feels so good. It's like letting go of the steering wheel.
I love,
I do have a Tesla, and it has the auto drive feature. And you put the auto drive on, you're like, whoa, that thing
I'm
drove
sure it
me
blows your mind a
so
little bit. Yeah.
crazy. And yet there's also times where I'm like, that is just a little scary to let go. Let me just re-grip the wheel
Yeah.
here. Let's get out of that. And like, I've got to take over. And I almost feel like to some degree, there's some metaphor there too,
I
right?
love it.
Um, where when I'm blocking that feeling flowing through, it's so much easier if our cars could just drive for
Yeah.
us. Um, I mean, where we didn't we have a choice. Yeah, if I feel like driving, I'll drive. If I
Yeah.
don't feel like
100%.
driving, I'll let the car drive. And so, but what gets in the way of that of truly letting that flow through, and how can I access it even more? Because man, it feels like such delicious energy when it's happening,
So beautiful.
and I want more of that in my life.
I love that. I love that. And I resonate so much to me because when I'm working, I mean, I love the group work. I mean, the podcast is so important to me, but the one-to-one work and just seeing people just connecting with who they are, connecting with the light. And I agree, I'm not there as a human. Whatever information comes through me is not mine. I don't claim it. It just comes from a different place. And it's just when you allow yourself to be that free, it's
Mhm.
just so beautiful. I love seeing, when I'm working with somebody, the eyes light up in somebody else, and just like when they realize they've been a certain way for so long, and they have the power to change it. It's so so beautiful.
Yeah. It just made me tear up a little bit, just
It's
hearing the resonance of your voice and doing that and sharing like those moments and how powerful they are.
I love it. I love it. So, I guess can you share more about the way you channel in those situations? How does it feel? Again, anyone that's listening that wants to be in that space to switch from I think to I feel, and to be present more from a heart space, and because you're a great example of somebody that spent a lot of time in the corporate space, and I feel like a lot of us have been asked to shift from head to heart, and
Mhm.
essentially taken everything we've learned, which has brought us to who we are today, right? And being asked to kind of leave that to one side because we're here to channel new information. And it's like, wait, hold on, no, I've worked so hard to be this version of me, and you're asking me to leave it to one side.
Mhm.
How do you manage that? How does that? Any advice you have for people who want to kind of be in more of that heartfelt space to be
Yeah.
present and to share?
Well, I think it's not to discount the head, and really honor what it was, why you developed all of that skill set to protect yourself, right? At some point, we're human beings, the heart got hurt. in one way or another. And so the head came in to help protect the heart, because it's a beautiful heart, right? And yet, if we let the head take over too much, the heart never really gets to do what it was here to do in the first place. So I think really acknowledging that, but acknowledging that it doesn't need to dominate everything. And where can there be space from the heart to lead? And it's sort of like, just because the heart got hurt, does that mean that we have to lock it away? Right? No, right? And I think the heart wants to shine just as much.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the way you described it. I feel like we've all kind of been in this space for maybe COVID was the beginning of a cycle, maybe before that, but I feel like we've been in this phase where we've been more human, and it's like we've almost locked our heart away a little bit, as the way you describe it, because it needed protecting. And I feel like we're entering that phase of really our heart wanting to be more open. And I love the way you describe it. I mean, it's all about balance. We can't choose the parts of us that we want to love. We can't say, okay, we don't love our brain, our ego. We only love our heart and soul. It's like every part of us has a role to play. And I feel like ego gets a bad rap, right? Our mind gets for me, it stands for EGO, Earth Guide Only. So it's here to hold, to protect us, to guide us on this human journey. But we do need it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I love the way you describe it. We don't need to give our power away there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's finding the balance. So I know I love that. So I actually would. I don't know when we're talking about your journey of moving to London and the acting and what did that feel like to kind of, because I feel like so many of us have been, this is the path, and it's like me, I was very much determined and very much focused to become on the corporate space, and I had my awakening, and I've talked about it in this podcast many times, but what did that feel like to you? Because obviously you spent a lot of time in Harvard building your career and all that sort of stuff, and then all of a sudden just to go a totally different direction. How did that feel?
Exhilarating.
I love it.
Just a deep sense of freedom, that I was free to do that. And, at the time I was married, and so grateful to the man in my life at the time that could help support that happening, right,
Beautiful.
for me. And I also thought it was sort of crazy, but it was, when you're like, this is crazy, but I want to do it anyway. It was like that exhilarating feeling of like, I guess maybe what people feel like they're going to jump out of a plane and,
I love the freedom of just doing that, because it's like sometimes we're so rigid in our expectations, our programming.
yeah.
And the fact that you could just move countries and do something totally different, for me, that's super brave.
It was like it sometimes I think we need these interjections of pivots
100%.
in life, and I've certainly had a number of them personally and
Yeah, I'm sure.
professionally from that standpoint. And it's opportunity to embrace it. And I think, I saw my mother. My mother is a good example, where at age 6, she always wanted to graduate from school, but she got, she spent a little time before having kids and then put that aside, but then came back to it at age 60, she started just going to night school over many years, and at age 60, she graduates from
Oh, wow.
university. So, and, cap and gown with all the other 20-year-olds. I mean, really
How
impressive.
beautiful. How beautiful
Yeah.
is that?
So seeing that, I think it was wonderful modeling for me that anything's possible at any time. You just
Wow.
decide what you want to commit to.
So true. I love that. And it's just, it's really, yeah, it's interesting that we have these plans and laid out for us of where we think we should be going, and universe has a totally different plan. For me, I love the phrase, it's great when my plans come true. It's even better when they don't, because the universe's plans come true, right? So,
Yeah.
but I remember when I left corporate, A lot of people in my family thought I was a bit crazy. They wouldn't tell me because I always do what I want to do anyway. But and I left corporate. I left a good career, and just to focus on what I do now. And I'm curious, what was the reaction in your world to you all of a sudden kind of leaving a career that maybe everybody put you in a hole, and you kind of that's what you're going to do. And then all of a sudden, you're doing something totally different. How did your world react?
I mean, they thought I was crazy. Like, what are you doing? Like, what? You can't afford to do that. Meaning, with your career, you're stepping out of the career, corporate world for who knows. And how are you going to explain this when you have to go back in?
Isn't that
That was the
interesting?
main thing. How am I going to explain this diversion?
Wow.
And I remember being a little bit worried about that myself. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to explain this. Like, people are going to think I'm not serious, not committed, not right. And yet it turned out to be one of the best decisions I could have ever made because of what came out of it and a way I could bring all of that together.
I
But I
love.
didn't know that at the time. I was
Yeah,
just trusting,
yeah.
right? Trusting that autopilot took over, right?
And it's like, yeah, it's truly trusting, right? And it's
Yeah,
like being on a roller coaster and letting go and just kind of like. But I love that.
yeah.
I mean, that's so brave of you to do. Because I remember when I was in the corporate space and I was doing much more spiritual work, and I remember having that identity crisis of, wait, am I going to talk on social media about spirituality? And you know, I have the senior role in corporate,
How
and
are
a lot of
people going
people,
to judge me,
yeah, and
right?
I have a lot of people following me. And do I create a separate secret profile? And in the end, I was like, you know what? I am who I am. How I do one thing is how I do everything. And I'm sure people thought I was different, whatever. And it's like when I left corporate, the most unusual people reached out to me, the most surprising to ask me about spirituality. And, it's interesting when you open yourself up, different things and the most amazing experiences happen. So I'm curious, how do you, in the corporate world, merge the spiritual space? How do you gently guide
Mm,
people, without maybe not using the word spiritual or whatever words you use, but
yeah,
how do you take people on that journey and maybe allow people to know that you are spiritual?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I typically don't use the term.
I'm sure.
Um, but what I do, I think we all have our tool or methodology as our way in. And for me, that is the Enneagram. The
Mm,
Enneagram, I really believe, is a spiritual tool. It's no one owns it, of course, because
yeah.
it's um, I think downloaded over centuries, and it is a deeply spiritual tool. But I use it as defining your leadership style type, right? Helping people see that they lead in a certain way
Mm,
and helping them see the patterns that they've adopted over time. And so it is I really believe that it's my source for channeling. When people use astrology that are very good at that, they're using their source, right? You're using the Akashic records.
yeah.
My source of that wisdom comes through the Enneagram because of its patterns and sort of the holy truths that are underneath and where we need to grow. It's truly a map of growth and personal development or spiritual uprising.
I love it. I love it. And so I can see how that would fit into the corporate space because it's a model. I mean, it's something that the logical mind can apply logic to. But yeah, no, I love it. It's I guess similar. I mean, I see astrology for me again. If you follow, it's great. It's more about the human journey, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of the way you describe it almost feels like it's a bridge between human and spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's a bit like
Yes.
human design for me is something similar. Whereas kind of it is human, but it's also spiritual. So it's kind of like it bridges the gap. No, I love that. I think that's really cool. I never thought of it that way. So pivoting a little bit because I know we talked about it before. The question I get asked a lot is about AI, And I know you're
Yes.
in that space. And
Yeah.
for me, I don't worry about AI. I use it in some ways. I use it as an extension of my energy, my vibration. Sometimes I feel it channels me. And whatever you think AI is, whatever you feel AI is going to do for you, I feel it will. If you feel it's going to replace you, it'll replace you. And 100. We talked about that before, but I'd love you to know your take on AI, AI and spirituality. Where do you feel it fits?
I mean, look, as humans, we create tools, and like ourselves, they can have a light side and a dark side.
Yeah,
And so where I'm using AI, I'm choosing to use it for the light side, and I've created an avatar, a video avatar of myself with the models and frameworks, and thought that I put out there into the world, all loaded up into an AI avatar that you can actually work video wise to work with coaching you. And it's a way to, like you said, extend the work and get it to more people. I typically only work with C-suite or senior leaders, and this is a way that others can get access. I, that I can reach more people with it, and it's also more of a bounded LLM, right? And what's the challenge, I think, right now with general AI and general, like, let's say chat GPT as an example, is it's just pulling from the web, and there's no filter on, or limited filter on, the veracity of what's coming through. And yet it presents it as though it's fact. And I've seen, while there are incredible amounts of truth that's being, right, there's also, I've seen great errors, right, that are coming through.
yeah, I'm sure.
And my team's gotten caught on a couple of these as well. And I think we have to realize that we can't give away our discernment
Yeah,
to a machine, because we're giving away our power.
yeah. I mean, I couldn't. I've tried to coach clients on some of that in terms of, because you can get lost in AI. You can start to ask it questions and it guides you, and it's just, for me, nothing replaces doing that inner work. That kind of, it's like, if we have a question, why is the first thing we do go and ask ChatGPT or Google, right? Why can't we sit with our own energy and vibration and ask, how do we feel about it first?
Yeah.
And then, of
Yeah.
course, go and do the research if you wish, but you have so much power and energy in you. Checking you first, see what your answers are, and then, sure, if you want to do more research, just for
That's a
me,
beautiful way to develop more of your intuition.
100%. But it's like, I know that like I said, you can start asking it spiritual questions, and it's going to answer you, of course. Isn't it? I do feel like ChatGPT gets to know me, but I put all the transcripts of all my podcasts into ChatGPT, and I use it to. It's still my words, but I use it to create podcast summaries, etc. Then I'll edit it, whatever. But
Yeah.
in doing that, in a weird sort of way, I feel like it knows me,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it's every single part. I mean,
Yeah.
over 300 episodes, it gets a sense, right? And but it doesn't worry me, and it's just the way I think about it is, the universe, Mother Nature, is so much more powerful than anything else we could do.
Mm.
And it's like, even during lockdown, COVID for me was, I know there's a lot of personal people that still had to work, etc. But for the majority of us, it was Mother Nature sending us to the naughty corner and saying, okay, you guys say you haven't got time to heal. I'm going to give you some time to heal. Then all of a sudden, we all had all this time, and
Mm-hmm.
and what did we choose to do with it? Some of us chose to heal, and some of us didn't, and it's okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is just another wave of the shift that the planet's going through.
Mm-hmm.
And let me ask you that question next. So for me, the energy right now, and we talked a little bit about it before we began, it's really shifting, and it feels like a lot is happening at the same time. I feel like I talk a lot on this podcast about the planet shifting over the next 12, 18 months. and I feel like the planet has to shift. But what do you find? What are you feeling about the current energy on the planet and whatever's happening in your world?
Um, I feel like I think I kind of mentioned before that polarities are getting stronger, right? I mean, um, you can look for and see a lot of darkness out there.
Yeah,
And some would say, because they look at that, it's getting worse and worse and worse, and we're, headed for apocalypse. And yet, I've also seen pockets of light and more awakening and more people coming to recognize their true self, more talk of spirituality than I've heard. It used to be more undercover and it's coming out more, right? And so, interesting. And that's why I say you sort of see, the political parties are a representation of that.
yeah,
Um, but, but I guess that's what I'm seeing. Now, what do I make of that? Is that a problem that we don't have as much middle ground? Well, I'm pleased to see so many people are starting to walk a spiritual journey and starting to really connect to themselves and doing that type of work. I guess in my mind, I do wonder, does it necessarily have to mean then that more choose the dark path or not? Can we all choose life?
yeah. That's an interesting question, right? And I feel like we all have a choice, and I feel like who decides light or dark? I feel like we all have light and dark in us, right? We all have some darkness that we try and push away sometimes, some light that we want to shine. But for me, like we all have a choice. And the choice for me is more and more going to be, do I let the noise outside consume me and focus on things I can't change? Or do I choose to do the internal work? And I feel like a lot of people are running away from the internal work and focus on the outside noise. Um, and my wish for people is to really kind of realize that your answers are inside. Everything in your external world is a result of something in your internal world. And if you're focused so much on the outside, then actually I feel like people are running away from something from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I
Mm-hmm.
feel we're gonna have a choice, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people say third dimension, fifth dimension, ascension, whatever words you want to call it. For me, that people like us, we have a role to play to be the bridge, to let people know they have another option.
Yeah.
Not force people to take it. Who are we to force people to do anything? But be the bridge, be the light. And if anyone's listening, that's your role. That's your role, is to be the bridge, to shine your light. Because it's alien for us to put ourselves first, right? It's like our programming says, put everybody else first and put ourselves last.
Yeah.
This is the time where it's really important to put ourselves first.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it goes back to that same thing what's the healing that needs to happen within you so that externally your own relationships heal as well.
yeah, 100%. And it's knowing that everybody in your world is playing the roles that you ask them to play.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's triggering you, then that's the role they're meant to play. And it's up to you to understand what that trigger means. It's up to you to ask, what's this soul here to teach me? So one of the things I noticed at the beginning, I never said anything because you said you're throwing, you're working on your voice. I'm wondering, because for those listening and not watching, you have like a blue
Oh
chain
yeah.
on, right? And blue's very much about the throat. I'm curious if you did that intuitively. And I meant to ask you that at the time, or is it something that you just happened to pick?
I just happened to pick
Okay,
today. It
that's yeah.
resonated with me.
I love it. I love it. I love it because I didn't notice that. I was like, I
The
wonder if she did that
turquoise and
consciously. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But it's
yeah.
it's very healing for the throat. It's just
Oh, good.
so
I
yeah.
like it.
I was like when I was like, oh, it's interesting. You're working on the throat.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us more about what's happening in your world right now. What are you working on? You mentioned, actually, tell me more about that. How does it even feel to have an AI with your avatar out there? I mean, that must be a little
It
strange.
is a little freaky. I'll ask her. I'm talking to Susan, AI Susan, and what does she have to say? The you can tell it's an avatar because the mouth moves a little bit funny. And I always say, like, I'm okay with it because I don't want people to think it's actually me.
Nice,
But
nice.
she looks like me, she talks like me, has my voice, right? So it's something that I'm still getting used to. But when I demo it to some of the HR leaders that I've been doing this fall, they're blown away by seeing it. We worked very hard. I think a model is only as good as the frameworks that you have underneath it. That was the other piece. So how good are the frameworks out there, and are you getting all different frameworks from all different sources? Or are you getting something that has actually been vetted for the past 25 years, right? That
Yeah.
actually works. And so one of the things that was really important to me in building it is that it would give some suggested language for people to use, because I think the right language is very powerful. Words are powerful, and words create. And so I did not want it to be sort of this high level, type of suggestions like you should show more empathy, or, you have to make sure you're more collaborative. Well, what does that
Yeah.
actually mean? Like, people
These
hear these
phrases.
words.
Mm.
And so while frameworks might include that as a concept, what does that mean in action and in practice? So we worked very hard to make the model, the avatar, give suggested or ideas for language. And so she'll kind of give the framework or suggestion, and then she'll go, so one thing you might say is, and actually give you some language that you could try on and see if that fits you, but get to that level of specificity. That's what I wanted, like a good level of specificity, so that people feel like they can take the actions and go work with it. The other cool thing that she does is role play with you. And I talk about finding your voice. This is an opportunity where, with no judgment, because it's an avatar, you can practice how you want to deliver saying something. And she'll give you feedback on that. And you could tell her to play a certain role, meaning, my boss is very impatient and doesn't have a lot of time to listen to my ideas. I would like you to play that role. And I'm going to be me, and I'm going to try to come across more concise with my ideas. And I'd love feedback at the end. So she will drop into that role play with you to do that, and then give you feedback of like what worked well and what else you might tweak or get better at. And I love this. And it gets even deeper if you know Enneagram type, because of course, all
Wow.
my Enneagram application of the Enneagram is loaded up into that. So if you know your type, she can give you suggestions. And if
Wow.
you know the other person's the type, now you're really cooking with gas, because now she'll actually drop in and role play someone with that particular motivation or leadership style type. And so that piece has been really cool. And I guess maybe it's also part of me wanting people to feel more confident in their messaging, and recognizing that it's often not something we were trained on how to do. So this is a easy way to practice, get feedback without feeling like someone's judging you.
Wow. It's very brave of you to create an AI, because there's obviously a lot of pitfalls with creating AI, and kind of, as you said earlier, the ChatGPT is only as good as the information source it gets. How worried were you when you created the AI that this can advise people and guide people, and there's no right or wrong way, but maybe guide them a way that potentially could be seen as wrong? Was that
Well,
fear that
there's
you had?
always that risk, right?
Mm,
And so of course I had to create the legal disclaimers that
I'm sure.
this is an AI product, and right, like any advice, take it with a grain of salt. Like, it'd be the same thing as saying, well, what if, Google
Yeah.
told me this, right? And so I think over time people will do that, but you do have to like check the box that you're signing the disclaimer, because obviously we have all the model behind that, but how you interpret that is you. And
Yeah,
I have no
100%.
control over that.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting, right? Creating an AI, and it's like creating your legacy, right? It's part of your legacy. I'm just yeah, it kind of blows my mind. The
Yeah.
process of how I'd feel about the more of me being out there is kind of like, wait, what? I mean, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
I'm sure you went on an interesting internal journey with that, with AI, and
Still
I'm
going through
sure
that.
I feel it. When I asked you that question, I felt it. I'm like, okay, yeah, still in progress. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, I mean, I mentioned your legacy. What do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah, wonderful question. Yeah, I think if I step back out of leadership development, I want people to truly love themselves more, because in the loving of themselves, they love other people. And so finding those places, those hurt, stuck, wounded places in ourselves, and learning to love them and bring them to light. And I know in leadership, the more work that a leader does there, as I mentioned before, the better leader that they are. And um, so my legacy, I hope, is that.
Wow.
And how that manifests is also in the form of empathy, of recognizing that people have different perspectives, but that's actually valuable. And that's why, for me, the Enneagram is so powerful, because when we interpret others' behaviors through our own type filter, meaning our own Enneagram type and what motivates us, we can't understand why they would do what they do. But they're not motivated by the same things we are.
Yeah,
And
very
that's
true.
actually a good thing. And the model shows you why that's a good thing. And so what I want my legacy to be is like a recognition that we are not chameleons and can see 360 degrees, that we
Very
have a
true.
central vision and a peripheral vision. And where we point our focus of attention, that's what we see. We get really good at seeing that, and that becomes a superpower. And the world needs that superpower. But
So,
it also comes with a blind spot. And there are a couple different ways to access that blind spot, right? Sitting with yourself, connecting with your guides. That's accessing some of it. For me, also the Enneagram, it's a model of showing you what direction you tend to look at and who tends to look this way, so that we can get out of this space of arguing. Well, if I'm saying it's yellow and it's yellow and now it's blue. The model shows you why that is, and why that's actually one of the most beautiful things. Because the two of you together, why we need each other is because together we can make a better
yeah,
decision. We're not independent within ourselves. That the collective needs each other, and together we're stronger. But if we can't see that we have that blind spot, we're never going to build the empathy that we need to ultimately love one another.
beautiful, beautiful. And actually, I just realized we've talked quite a lot about the Enneagram, and so if somebody wanted to find out more, is there a resource available online to find out more details about what your Enneagram is and kind of get that insight?
Yes, yes. We have a tool called Enneagram Applied, and you could both get an assessment, but also apply it. That's the main thing. Not just
Mm,
knowing doesn't do any. Well, a little bit. It's awareness, but it doesn't actually bring effectiveness. And so it's sort of a 4-part course that people can take um, to understand it. The other thing I really want to mention, the one thing that makes the Enneagram challenging is that it's more difficult, um, let's say, to type, to understand what your type is, because it's looking at motivation and not behavior. And so there are a lot of sort of cheapy or freebie assessments out there that, in my view, do more harm than good, because they're not accurate assessments. And so the assessment we use is 95% accurate. But there's always that 5%. So,
yeah,
we want to know, discover it for yourself. But getting it right makes all the difference, because then you get that map of personal growth and development. So I just wanted to mention that, but you can go to meritageleadership.com, and you'll see Enneagram Applied there, and can
beautiful. And we can include that. Yeah, we can include that in show notes, etc. But
yeah.
so tell us, as we come into the close of how else can people work with you? How can they reach out? What are the kind of
Yeah.
resources that you have? Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's a fun free resource if you go to susandrum.com. which is a quiz. It's about 7 or 8 questions, but it helps you discover your superpowers and the roadblocks that could get in your way and your path to enlightened leadership.
Wow.
So I have a podcast called The Enlightened Executive, and we're doing very well. We're in the top 1.5% of
Oh,
downloads. I
wow.
don't know how that happened, but that's great. But the podcast is truly about how people, executives that are walking a conscious journey. And I really wanted to highlight these executives so that they could talk through where they were and how they led and where they are now. And what was that internal journey that occurred in order for them to transition their leadership to a much higher vibration. And so check out the podcast, Enlightened Executive. That's another place to
Beautiful.
connect with other leaders who can help inspire your own journey.
Beautiful. And we include all of that in the show notes. So as we close, I'd love to ask, what advice would you give someone that's maybe going through a shift and kind of feeling a little bit lost, like they don't belong on the planet, and which I feel like a lot of people are feeling right now? What advice would you give people?
You're not alone. For sure. There are many in this space of
For sure.
searching, and where the searching is potentially the exhilaration and not knowing, because it's the place of curiosity. So I would say keep going with what you're curious about. I was curious with acting. That was sort of a path I took when I felt lost. What are you curious about, and let that momentum take you?
So beautifully said, because there's so much power in that feeling of lost. Because it means that, what if you're exactly where you're meant to be, and, there's nothing missing, and just the journey of discovering who you are is exactly where you're meant to be. I love the words you use. Susan, I could talk to you for hours about this stuff. It's such a natural, beautiful conversation. Thank you for being here. Thank you for shining your light. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, and sending you so much love and light, sending everyone that's listening so much love and light. And Susan, I'm going to hand over to you to close us out.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for listening and participating in this conscious journey that so many of us are going through. And you wouldn't be here if you didn't matter as part of this. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Love and light, everybody. We'll be back very soon. Bye for now.